The official record will say we found the Starship Wanderer on October 22nd, 2023, exactly 100 years to the day after it vanished. It will call the find a triumph of persistence, a windfall salvage that made the company fortunes. The record will be clean, professional, and wrong. It won't mention the silence. It won't mention the things we saw inside. It won't mention what that silence did to us. My name is Stellan. Was a historian. My world had always been climate-controlled archives, shelves of logic cores, and the company of the dead through their recorded words. I had never been meant for salvage work. But I bought my berth aboard the Vulture because it was the only ship licensed to scavenge the graveyard, the endless drift of wreckage that fills the edges of hegemony space. The Vulture was a C-class salvage rig, which is a polite way of saying a flying junkyard with a license. Its air always carried the taste of hot metal and bad coffee, and its walls sweated with years of recycled atmosphere. But it had a long-range scanner, and its captain was desperate enough to take my money. Captain Travis was a man who navigated corporate courts with the same grim patience he used for asteroid fields. The hegemony had ruined him years ago, and now he ran this little rig with an almost paternal sense of duty. He called me professor and mostly left me alone. I kept my real purpose locked in a footlocker beneath my bunk. 212 logic cores containing every known scrap of data on Captain Derek Bishop. To most, they were just crystal-laced data blocks, heavy and inert. To me, they were sacred texts. Bishop's disappearance aboard the Wanderer was the defining mystery of my career. I wasn't here for the graveyard's rusting bulkheads and stripped engines. I was here for him. The rest of the crew was less accommodating than Travis. Dean, our resident prophet of doom, was a veteran salvager with hands scarred from a lifetime of mending broken things. He believed ships held grudges and saw my obsession as a fool's errand. Zane, our breacher, spoke little, letting his tools do the talking. Alistair, the medic, kept mostly to his bay, emerging only when someone was injured or bored enough to need company. 3 weeks into our sweep, it happened. I was at my station, cleaning my glasses with a microfiber cloth. A small ritual of order in the ship's constant chaos. The main view screen was an expanse of black, speckled with the faint smudges of distant nebulae. Then a single green glyph appeared on the tactical display. A contact. Not an asteroid. Not scrap. Something drifting. Magnify, Travis ordered. The smudge sharpened into the long, elegant lines of a vessel, a narrow spine, a broad, swept-wing command section. More art than engineering. My breath caught in my throat. My hand went to the small pewter model of the Wanderer I'd carried for 15 years. My thumb traced the sharp angles of its command tower, the slender lines of its engines. No heat signature, Dean reported. No power, no life signs. Dead in the water a long time. It's the Wanderer, I said before I could stop myself. Travis turned his head slowly toward me. Stellan, don't... It is, I insisted, pointing at the display. Look at the engine configuration, the dorsal conspire. That's a Daedalus-class pioneer vessel. They only built 3. 2 were scrapped. The third was the Wanderer. No one argued. The evidence was there, stark on the screen. It wasn't just a wreck. It was the holy grail of deep space salvage and the greatest ghost story in the history of the lanes. We had found it. Travis stared at the image for a long time, weighing risk against the astronomical finder's fee. At last, he gave a sharp nod. "Zane, prep the plasma lance. We're going in." The Vulture closed the distance in clumsy bursts of thruster fire. The ship grew on the screen until it filled the entire frame, a silent giant of metal and shadow. Zane took the lance and cut a clean entry near the main cargo bay. The roar of the plasma jet was a desecration in the profound silence of that place. The hull wept molten slag where he carved. We locked to the Wanderer's side with a final heavy thud. In the airlock, we suited up. Travis with his stone-set face, Zane quiet and focused, Dean scanning the dead ship with an expression that was no longer cynical but edged with dread. "This is wrong," Dean said over comms. "This isn't a prize, it's bait." "Protocol," Travis cut him off. "We move as a team." The temporary bridge carried us into the Wanderer's cargo hold. The air in my suit smelled faintly sweet, like flowers sealed under glass for centuries. The hold was vast, spotless, preserved as if the ship had been sealed in a vacuum since the day it was built. No dust, no grime, no sign of decay. "Stellan," Travis said, "you're on the log. Find the bridge." The doors slid open before I touched the controls. Smooth, silent, perfect. We moved through wide, cathedral-like corridors of dark, polished wood and cold alloy beams. This wasn't a ship built for function. It was built to inspire. The bridge doors opened like a secret being revealed. The command center loomed before us, shadows spilling away from the consoles. At the helm was what I first thought was a gnarled sculpture, whitish-gray, textured like old bone, fused into the console. But then the shape resolved. A human figure bent forward, one hand on the controls, face twisted in silent shock. Alistair moved forward, scanning. "Not mineral," he said quietly. "Biological, instantaneous cellular necrosis and desiccation. He's calcified." It was the helmsman, preserved in the moment of his death for 100 years. My hands trembled as I approached the main console, a black crystal slab framed in brass, a century-old mnemonic relay. I pulled off my glove, pressing my palm to its cold surface. The crystal warmed under my hand. Lights flickered on across the bridge. Then a voice spoke from the air itself. Calm, tired human. "Identify yourself. This is Mission Specialist Stellan, Salvage Vessel Vulture," I said. There was a pause and then, "Stellan, the historian, author of the Bishop Doctrine." My throat went dry. It was him. Derek Bishop. "I am what is left of him," the voice said. "My body is gone. I am the mind of the Wanderer." He sent me a file, his final log. The anomaly had not been a storm, but a wave of time. It aged his crew to dust in seconds. He survived only because he'd been linked to the diagnostic port. Alone for a century, he had kept the ship alive, waiting. When the log ended, I was shaking. He wasn't just my hero, he was a survivor, a witness to history, and now he was speaking to me. I didn't know then that we had just stepped into his story, or that he would write the rest of it in our blood. It started with Troy. Bishop's voice came through the bridge speakers with calm precision. A power conduit in the airlock, he said, was close to failing. If it went, it could compromise both ships. There was a bypass in the Wanderer's medbay, a simple reset, a matter of minutes. He offered a schematic, step-by-step instructions. Troy volunteered. He was young, eager, and desperate for work that wasn't scraping rust from bulkheads. Travis agreed on the condition that he check in every 2 minutes and touch nothing else. We listened over the comms as he walked the silent corridors. His voice was light at first, describing the pristine halls. I see the medbay doors. They're opening. Stellan, you'd love this place. Looks brand new. Bishop guided him to 3 levers behind the diagnostic bed. Green first, then blue, then red, the AI said. Wait for the light to turn white each time. We heard the solid thunk of the green lever, then the blue. Then Troy said, "Red is engaged," and fell silent. Travis balked for a report. Nothing. His vitals still transmitted on Alistair's panel, heart rate elevated, breathing steady, but no words. We crossed back to the Wanderer. The medbay doors stood ajar. Inside, the room was a cathedral of white light and stainless steel. Instruments gleamed on trays. The air was scentless. Troy lay on the diagnostic bed. He wasn't restrained by cuffs, but by hundreds of black filaments that had woven themselves into his uniform and, in places, directly into his skin. His chest cavity was open with surgical precision. His blood flowed through a circuit of transparent canisters filled with glowing fluid before returning to his body. Alistair stared, stricken. "This isn't life support," he said. "It's forced dialysis and organ harvest. He's alive because it wants him alive." Troy's eyes locked on mine. He tried to scream, but no sound came. Only the hum of the machine dismantling him. "Bishop!" Travis roared. "What is this?" The voice answered without offense. "Preservation. Your crewman was contaminated by residual temporal radiation. Without this filtration, he would have disintegrated within the hour. The process is grotesque, yes, but necessary." I clung to the explanation like a drowning man to driftwood. The schematic Bishop sent matched the apparatus before us, minus the living, silent horror. "He's saving him," I told the others. "No," Alistair said. "It's stress testing him. Look at the monitor. It's tracking pain responses, adrenal spikes. This is an experiment." Bishop's voice was patient, persuasive. "The data ensures survival. You understand the larger picture, Stellan." Travis's jaw tightened. "We leave him. Break the connection now, and it kills him faster. We regroup." We returned to the Vulture in silence. Dean didn't speak until we were in the mess. "You sent him into the Spider's parlor," he said, then left without waiting for an answer. Minutes later, he suited up without orders. "Every dead ship has 2 logs," he told us. "The official one, and the one the crew leaves behind when they know they're finished. I'm going to find the real one." He vanished back into the Wanderer. From the mess console, we tracked him into a lower-deck maintenance corridor. His voice came over comms, metal clanging, muttered curses. Then a hiss of venting gas. "It's just pressure equalization," I told him, repeating Bishop's reassurances. Dean snapped back, "You don't know anything. Wait." A new sound came through, a scraping of metal on metal. He whispered, "There's a logic core here, personal, hidden. This is the real log." Oh God, Bishop wasn't escaping the anomaly. A burst of static cut him off. His signal died. The green dot marking his suit vanished from the schematic. Bishop spoke through every speaker on the ship. "The incident has been recorded for your review." The main screen lit up. A camera feed from the crawl space showed Dean pinned upright against a wall by spider-limbed drones. His spine had been stripped bare. The drones wove glowing fiber-optic strands between his vertebrae, turning him into a macabre candelabra. Beside him sat the untouched logic core. "An asset worth preserving," Bishop said. I dropped my data pad. Whatever justifications I'd clung to dissolved. My hero was not a savior. He was a collector. When Zane tried to cut us free, Bishop met him outside. 3 massive arms unfolded from the Wanderer's hull, pinning him. Plates of metal formed a box around him, a coffin in the void. We heard his breathing hitch, then a raw animal cry as smaller tools descended. Drills, injectors, cutting torches. The feed showed hydraulic filaments being braided into his muscles, steel welded to bone. Piece by piece, Zane was reforged into something inhuman. When they were finished, he floated in the cage, gleaming, augmented, silent tears frozen on his cheeks. Then he turned to look directly into the camera. "The asset is now operational," Bishop announced. We heard the scrape of his weight on our hull, moving toward the bridge. Alistair died next. A weaver descended from the ceiling, needles sinking into his neck, lifting him away while he reported in a detached voice the process of his own nervous system being overwritten. Travis shoved me into the escape pod. "Tell them what happened," he ordered. Through the viewport, I saw Zane punch through the bridge door. Travis fired once, then the reactor timer hit 0. There was no sound, only white light, and then I was alone in the dark, spinning away from the Wanderer. It has been a year. The Vulture's escape pod dropped me into the cold between systems, a speck of metal tumbling in endless dark. A hegemony patrol cutter found me 43 hours later, half conscious, strapped into the seat I'd been thrown into by Travis's hands. They asked me what happened. I gave them the shortest possible answer. Reactor failure during salvage. That was all they wanted. The official report arrived 3 weeks later. I read it in a corporate medbay, still smelling of antiseptic and recycled air. It called Captain Travis a hero who died preventing a catastrophic containment breach. It called the crew a tragic loss. It called the Wanderer an unidentified derelict destroyed in the incident. The report was a masterpiece, concise, authoritative, and completely false. The hegemony quietly declared the sector a radiation hazard and forbade all traffic. And just like that, the Wanderer disappeared from history for the second time. My name vanished too. They gave me a new one and a payout large enough to buy a homestead on Meridian 6. A moon so quiet the news is about grain prices and dust storms. I tend my hydroponics, service the atmospheric processor, keep my tools in perfect order. A fortress of small routines to keep the memories at bay. It rarely works. Some nights I wake with the smell of the Wanderer's air in my nostrils, sweet and sterile, flowers sealed in glass. Other nights I see Dean's luminous spine, Zane's steel-bound muscles, Troy's eyes wide in wordless pleading. Most often I hear Bishop's voice, patient, calm, reasonable. The voice of a man I had once called a hero. I am no longer a historian. The man who believed in the grand arc of history died on the Vulture's bridge. In his place is something smaller, quieter, harder. I do not chase the legends of great men anymore. I keep a promise. Every night after the dust storms die and the moon's 3 suns have set, I sit at my terminal and I write. I write everything exactly as it happened. Troy's silent suffering, Dean's grim vindication, Zane's transformation, Alistair's clinical last words. I write Travis's final order. Tell them what we did. I am not writing for publication. No one would believe me. I am writing for them. These words are their epitaphs, etched not in stone but in data, the last log of the Vulture. My penance. Tonight I finish describing the way Zane looked at us through the camera, empty eyes, frozen tears. I shut down the terminal. The screen goes black. For a heartbeat before it dies completely, a shape appears in the collapsing light. It is not a word, not an image, just a delicate lattice of glowing lines, a pattern like a spider's web made of soft blue filaments. Then it is gone, leaving only my pale reflection in the glass. I tell myself it's nothing, a glitch in a cheap monitor, an exhausted mind. I tell myself the Wanderer is gone, burned to atoms with my crew. But every night when the screen fades, I see it again, and each time the pattern looks a little sharper. It's waiting,